Hello guys, welcome to another MarvelousDesigner tutorial. Today we're gonna create a normal shirt like this. Now this is a very good diagram actually to show us how the shirt is composed of. We have two front patches, we have one big back, and we have two smaller patches on top. We have two sleeves, the cuff, and also two collar pieces. One is the band, which is the standing part, and the collar leaf is the one folding back. Of course, you can have some pocket right there too. Okay, so let's actually start with, again, simple shapes. I'm gonna go for a square here by pressing the H button, I believe, or what's the shortcut for this guy? S button actually. So press S and then drag out a rectangle like this, and drag it inwards and place it to where I want it to be. And right click, I'm gonna go for a symmetric pattern, holding down shift and click to mirror it to the other side and grab both. Oh, before I duplicate for the back, I'm gonna create the armhole and the neck hole. To do so, I'm gonna go for add point, which is the X button here, and click on maybe here and maybe there. I can tweak those guys later, so I don't really care exactly how or where they are now. And then I'm gonna grab both and Ctrl Z, Ctrl V, holding down Shift, and drop down two new patterns in the 2D menu, 2D view, and drag those two guys back like this, and Ctrl G to flip those. Alright, now let's start sewing. I'm gonna sew using the segment sewing, which is N button. So those two in the front, and sew from the front to the back right there, and sew the back, which are those two, and then all the way from this edge to the very beginning, which is the last part here. And then for the shoulder, I'm gonna sew this to this, and this guy to this guy. Okay, cool. And now I'm gonna press space to simulate. As you can see, it's wrapping around the body quite nicely. Alright. So of course, those parts are not supposed to be just a square. One thing we should be able to do now is making the armhole, right, and the neck hole arced. So I'm gonna do that right now. I'm gonna go to Z button for the added pattern and drag down those 2 points. Because they're symmetric pattern, when I drag this point down, the other guy will go down automatically. Do the same thing for the back, maybe not as much. So now I can press V button and drag out a curve point to create a nice arc. Okay. I'm gonna grab this line and the other line here. I'm gonna drag them in so that I can create a nice armhole like this by holding press V button and drag out a curve point. One more thing you probably are seeing here is that this arm line is this shoulder line is tilted because the shoulder is of course tilted. So I'm gonna do the same thing here. Grab this point and the other point on the back and drag them inwards and downward so that to mimic that shape. Okay. So how much you go will be depending on the body shape of your model, so it's not fixed. Alright. I kind of wanted this to go in more, so I'm gonna grab this guy and drag them in. Right, so they're stopping there. And apparently I think it's not long enough, so I'm gonna drag those two lines downwards and press V button, create a nice arc on the middle. Alright, cool. I think they are a little wide, so I'm gonna grab those two and drag them in. And that feels better. And fix that arc. And this arc. Cool. So we have the front patch. Now you want to again check out 7 to see if you have too much pressure somewhere here and there. I think it's okay, so press Alt 2 to go back. Now a few things we can still doing is that the bottom is not quite flat, so I'm gonna do that here right now. First of all, I'm gonna drag this guy down. Whoops, and also this guy down. And then I'm gonna press V button and drag a arc like this and drag it back on the other end and do the same thing here. So that's gonna give me the arc I need. Although it's not gonna make a lot of difference here. Alright, cool. So let's see We are happy with this now, so let's do the sleeves. Sleeve can also start with a square like this, right? And then I'm gonna position it properly here. Okay, one more thing I wanted to figure out is the length of the armhole. So let me grab both of those guys. As you can see, the 2D line lengths added together will be 415. So I want this guy to be also 415. Let me press Shift Z to see the dimension. You can see here it's 335. Not quite close to what I really need, but as you can see here, it's actually arced. So let me actually do that little arc here and drag this guy. Press the V button, right? And drag this guy up and drag this guy a little bit down. Something like that. Let me make it a little bit wider, so I'm reaching 415 or so. Alright, cool. So now it's time to start sew this guy to the 2 armholes. To do so, I need to figure out where this is. Right, that's the front, and that's here, right? And my other front will be, let's see, this guy. So I just need to go use free sewing, which is M button. Go from the front to the back, and holding down Shift. Also go from to the top, and from the top to the back. Alright, cool. Now I can start press space to simulate. Yeah, as you can see, it falls down nicely. And I'm gonna sew these 2 other ends together using segment sewing, and that should close the arm. And if I want to make some changes, I can do that now. As you can see, it's not quite straight, right? So I'm gonna make this guy go in and this guy also go in, and arc these 2 arcs in to mimic that. Alright, cool. Now grab this guy, right, and symmetric pattern to drop down another one on the other side and drag it back to the arm. And I have to sew them the same way though, so do that again. M, go from the front to the back, and here do the same thing, holding down Shift from to the top, back to the back. Alright, so that's the other arm. So now we have the basic patterns, and we're gonna stop this tutorial here, and in the next one we're gonna go ahead and do the collar. Okay, see you next time. Hello guys, and welcome back. So we're gonna do the collar now. Let me drag out a rectangular right here and bring it to the back, and Ctrl G to flip it. Now I need to figure out how do I sew these together. This is gonna be the bottom of this guy, right? This corner, which is this corner here, all the way across the entire neck hole. So I'm gonna press M, go from the beginning to the end, holding down Shift, go from the front to the top, and that's gonna be this guy, right? Go across the back and go back to the front. That should allow me to sew these all together, and I can press space and to see it simulates and drag that back. Okay. And then I'm gonna grab this guy, Ctrl C, Ctrl V, and create another one. And just sew the 2 things together. Right. So I have another piece just sitting on top. And I need to fold this guy back. To do so, I need to go for a this guy here called the fold arrangement. And click on this fold and just fold it back like that, and then space again. As you can see, it's folding back quite nicely. Switch back to the selection, as you can see. Okay. Alright, so that's basically the color. And of course, these are not just square. I start with square to make things simpler. As you can see, they're not square. So I'm gonna give them some nice cool arc. So this guy can, let me use the V button here and drag it down. Give it a nice arc. Also up, and I drag those 2 guys inwards. Okay, And for the top, it's arcing in this way. And oops, that's too high. So I'm gonna make this guy lower, not really standing up that much. And this guy can also get maybe a little bit bigger. So I can have a, you know, bigger maybe color. And yeah, I can make it center in the middle a little bit more. Alright, cool. Just trying to copy what I see here. So I'm gonna also go change this guy here and this guy here to make them shorter at this end, because I see that in the reference image too. And that has a little arc here. I guess I can do that. Alright, so that's basically the color, and I want to open this middle too. So I'm gonna press N button, B button, which is the edit sewing, and grab this one and delete so that I can, you know, make it open. In this case, I actually need to create buttons there. So because I need buttons, I need to actually make them just a little bit longer so they have this overlapping area that I can really use button to fasten these guys out. Oh, by the way, I probably need these guys to be longer too because I did that. Actually, I didn't really measure the length, so I'm not sure. It looks fitting together quite nicely, so it's probably okay. Anyway, so now I need to create those buttons, and we have buttons right here if you want to try that. So let's actually do that this time. Click on the buttons. I'm gonna go for one button here, right? Let's see, it should be here, I guess. Let's see. Female is actually on this side. Anyway, let's go grab this guy. Control C, Control V, and holding down Shift while moving your cursor down, you can see it's giving you a preview of where you will actually duplicate. Now, before you left click to drop down a new one, you can actually right click to tell it how far you want it to go using a numerical way. You can also tell it how much you want to duplicate. So maybe that much is enough. Yeah, 5 I guess. So 6 in total should be the correct amount. And I'm gonna press OK. And I need 6 buttonhole also. So let me go ahead and use this guy, which is the buttonhole. I'm gonna click on the same position to create that buttonhole. Go back to the select or edit button thing here. Grab the buttonhole. Control C, Control V again, Shift, go down. And also 5 times. Press OK. Alright. I'm gonna also move them maybe closer to the edge. Seems like they're too far away. So let me grab these guys, drag, holding down Shift. Alright, maybe also adjust the buttons, drag and holding down Shift. Alright, so we have a bunch of buttons and buttonholes to fasten these guys together. Oh, and also they appears to be a little big. I can make them smaller by go to the buttons and grab the button and change the size to maybe 15, maybe 18. The same thing for the buttonhole here, 20 maybe. Now time to fasten those together, which is the last button here on this button section. Click on the button and the buttonhole, buttonhole. Alright, now let's go back to the selection. Now before I simulate, I kind of wanted to actually tally the overlapping already. So let me actually drag this guy up and actually drag it a little bit over the one on the bottom and drag the bottom one inwards. So I'm basically telling it that's the relationship, and press space to simulate. As you can see, they should fall together quite nicely. I can just drag the other guys around to fix those problems. Alright, cool. So that's basically how the button is created here. As you can see, it's holding together pretty nicely, but sometimes you might have trouble with those buttons. They're not quite nice sometimes. Anyway, let's move on to the back and finish the final patch here. those two, right? I'm gonna go use internal line here and go click here and double click there to create that line. I can tweak it later on. Seems to be a little arc, so I'm gonna drag this guy up and then press the V button and drag this guy down to give it a nice arc. And then grab this guy, right click. I'm gonna go for the cut and sew to cut these two together. So that's the top two patches. For the back, it's not really having any sewing in the middle. So here I'm gonna do the, if you're happy with the shape already, if you're not, you probably want to keep that. So maybe let's keep that like that for now, but you can actually easily merge those together by pressing the Z button, grab this line, right click, you can do a merge like this, but let's not do that now. I still want the symmetrical patterns here. Alright, so that's the color and the buttons. Let's stop this tutorial here, and in the next one we're going to start doing some fine tuning of the shapes. Okay, see you next time. Hello guys, welcome back. So let's move on to do some fine tuning. One of the things I can actually try to make it better is this little winkle here. Now some people may be okay with that. If you're not, you can drag this guy in, the front guy here, drag it in, basically make it smaller, having lesser fabric. That's gonna, you know, eliminate some of the volume here. The reason is very simple actually. It's you're having lesser thing here and stretching that inwards. In reality, people do a dart here. Let me show you. People do a dart like this, add 3 point and drag that in and sew that. That's real practice. Basically, it's doing the same thing we were doing earlier, which is just make it shorter, right? So yeah, oops. When the button is getting crazy, you can drag it out and maybe, oops. Yeah, button is not very good in my opinion. It's not a very good functionality here. It's just very unstable. Where does it go? If you want to go inside, you can shift A. That's gonna hide the model here. And let's see, where is the button? It's over here. Let me drag it out. Simulate again. It could be because I have too much pressure there, but yeah. Now let's see, Alt 7. Yeah, having too much pressure there, so I'm gonna make my garment a little wider in the front and the back too, because I want to keep the size equal. So a little bit wider could be helpful. Just a little bit more. So I always keep constantly checking these guys, see if you're getting the actually the proper like size. Okay. So another thing I wanted to actually, that's getting a little bit loose again. I'm gonna say, how about also make the back just a little bit shorter, and so we're also making lesser volume there, and maybe that arc can be shorter too. Okay. So another thing is this guy here, right? It's a little weak. The reason for that is because the fabric here on a normal garment is actually like double layered, or even having some plastic things holding it inside of it. So we can also mimic that here too to make it you know, stiffer. I'm gonna create a new fabric and drag that onto this colored band, and for the material here, I'm gonna go to physical property. Underneath details, I'm gonna drag up the stretch and bending attributes. As you can see, when I'm dragging it, it's already getting stiffer. And now I think maybe the size of it should be longer now, so I'm gonna drag it longer to really make it the same length as the other garment. Let's see. Still not long enough, I guess. Let's see. So this is like a 459. This is 523. So check that longer. Alright, that should give me the correct length of this part. Seems like to be they're a little too long, so maybe I can make it just a little shorter. Okay. And maybe lesser stiff. It's too stiff, it's dragging the other parts. And I think it's too high too. Maybe make it lower than that. And also a little bit shorter. Also the fabric can be lesser stiff. And not necessarily to be always standing like that. Alright, so let's see what else we can do. For the back, if you don't like this a lot of like wrinkles in the back, you can add some dart to also shrink the volume here, which is this guy here, dart, and drag out a diamond shape here. And then you can press N button to sew the dart together. So the top edges and the bottom edges together and simulate. It will try to make that volume looks better. But you'll have those kind of like artifact a little bit here, so you can maybe drag it longer so that it's even out a little bit more up there. Alright, oops. So that's one of the things you can do. I kind of want a little more fabric in the back, so maybe I can eliminate that. Just maybe have a little bit dart is okay. Right. And then another thing you can probably do is the cuff, right? So here I think the sleeve a little too long, so I can make it just a little bit shorter. Right. And then I can do internal line, double click to finish it, right click, cut and sew, right? So it's gonna give me the cuff. I'm gonna make the cuff just a little bit shorter, and then here I can maybe make it, let's simulate and take a look. I think it's okay, maybe just a little bit shorter. Right. You can have buttons and details if you wanted to. I think I'm okay with the shape I'm getting. You can also fold it back if you wanted to, or even give it some nice opening. If you want to roll up the sleeves, let me roll up one of the sleeve here. Right, so I'm gonna go for here. Just make it a little wider here. And let's see, it's actually opening on the inside, right? So, which is actually where this is. I guess it's actually the place I have sewed it together. So let me press B and grab that and delete it, and allow this part to be able to open, right? And then I'm gonna fold it back using my folding again and simulate, right? So that's gonna allow it to fold back like this. Alright. Now if you want to really roll it up, you have to really roll it up like that. Okay. And if you want it to be staying there, one of the little trick you can do is grab the garment and right click. There is a strengthen, which will keep them stronger there. Oops, actually not there. So yeah, actually not strengthen, sorry about that. Check that up. It's that check this guy out. It's actually this guy called solidify, which will make it still simulating, but make it more solid and try to stay there. Okay, so if you're happy with the shape you're getting, you can solidify the things you're working on so that they will be trying to stay there. Okay, I'll make this part a little bit bigger. Also the cuff. Right. Okay. So that's how you roll up the sleeve. Some people may are asking how do you roll out even more, right? I'm not a big fan of doing that because it's a little bit difficult. So I guess it's all fake. So I don't want it to get too serious about that thing. So yeah. And add pocket, you know how to add pocket already. You should be able to do that here too. So I'm gonna create an internal square like this, right? I'm gonna go for a smaller shape and move it to there, maybe. And then X button to add a point and drag it down using Z button. Maybe it's a little bit too high, a little lower. Oops, it's a little bit higher then. Right, and yeah, that button is always a big pain. So I just have to. Sometimes it's because the simulation quality is low because we don't have enough particles. So we'll do that later on. For now, we're still doing the shape, so I'm gonna grab those two. Actually, just this one. Clone as part, right, and sew these back together. This guy goes there, this guy goes there, this guy goes there, and this guy goes to there. Alright, move it to position, simulate, and I'm gonna do symmetric pattern for the other guy, and so this guy also on top. Right, so that's another one, and we can also maybe give it some little nice cap on the top, because if I want that, I have to create an internal line. Double click to finish, and then I have to also create a shape for that. Can probably just copy the old one, but I'm just gonna do this to that and simulate. Have a little top there. Say symmetric pattern again. And put it here and sew that together. Grab this guy, drag it out, and simulate. Okay. So that's the pocket. If you don't like to see those lines, you can go ahead and change those lines to be invisible right there. You can press Alt 2 to see some of the thickness. Actually Alt 1 to see the thickness of the garment. And drag this guy back in. Alright, cool. Let's see what else. Sometimes you can see some, people add something on the shoulder. I think that's not shirt. That's for like things like coat. So maybe next time then. So let's say we're happy with this. Let's go ahead and actually crank up the quality. So I'm gonna grab all the things here and change the particle distance to 5. And let it simulate. And wait for it to settle down. Now you can wait for it to simulate for a little while though, because I think it needs time to really figure out what's going on. I probably also need to disable the solidify here because it's trying to hold the shape. Okay, I think one of the things I do find out is that maybe my sleeve is too long. I mean the sleeve hole here, this length is too long, so I need to make it shorter. I can see that by looking at the wrinkles. If I'm having much more wrinkle on the sleeve than the shoulder, that means you have more fabric on the sleeve than the shoulder have, so that's why you're having those problems. And oops, this guy should be longer too. Alright, that's basically how you create a shirt. Some of the little tip here that I think is pretty useful is that how do you control the thickness of the wrinkles here. Sometimes you're getting really thin wrinkles, especially in ZBrush. It looks sort of like too thin, you don't have much volume here. To fix that, you can have a little bit more collision thickness. So you can actually go ahead and grab these guys, and then underneath the add thickness to collision, right? You can change that to something higher, like 5 instead of 2.5, and you simulate again. As you can see, they will get a little bigger because you can see the lines a little bit more, having just a little bit more volume. I think that's really important because you don't want to end up with super thin and tight wrinkles in ZBrush. At least I don't want to, because it's really hard to sculpt based on that. I just want a little bit more resolution. Okay. Oh, and be aware that the patch you created will be using the fabric you're selecting. So I really don't want that fabric to be used on the fabric I use for the color to be on my pocket. So I'm gonna drag the default fabric back. You can play around with the physical property of the fabric and things like that, but the patterns are basically should be like this. So yeah, that's it. Thanks for watching. See you next time.